morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time of the day it is that you're tuning in. Welcome to another episode of the Resilience Rising Podcast with me, Naturally Cinnamon. I am a therapist, life coach, resilience cultivator, and the founder and CEO of Jamila Wellness LLC, where women go to be well and live beautifully. You can find us at resiliencerisinpodcast.com. You can also send in your questions, topics, comments, and feedback at resiliencerisinpodcast@gmail.com. Like this, love this, share it, rate it, comment, but most important, make sure that you're subscribed and following. Here's another episode. Hope you enjoy. Hey everybody, I have a surprise for you. So you know how we've been doing the relationship series, and it was 4 parts, right? Our relationship with ourselves, with our friends, with our romantic partners, and with our family members. Well, I got a surprise for you. We've got one more episode in the relationship series. Now, before I tell you what that's going to be, let me just go through our wins, L's, and I don't knows. We had a story submitted via our Instagram page, so make sure you're following us on Instagram, that I'd love to share because the way her perspective on this story went was really cool. We had someone who told me that she was on vacation, on a family vacation, she, her husband, and their daughters, and they were, in a rental car, and they went to another state from where they live and got into a car accident in the rental car. Now, if you have never been in a car accident while in a rental, sometimes it can go smoothly, but sometimes getting a replacement car can be a little hectic, especially when you're in another state. So, depending on the car rental company, depending on a few other things, rules and regulations, it could be a little like, this is really a damper to our entire vacation. But she looked at it this way. She was able to stay where they were, a little while longer. It's her hometown. And the funny thing is, she went to visit her grandmother's gravesite on the anniversary of her passing. So that was a very sentimental moment. So what could have been, stressful and just completely frustrating, and what could have completely ruined an entire family vacation, it turned out to be more time spent with family and able to, relive just have a moment with someone that she loved dearly and was close to her and her family. So I thought that was really cool. That was a win. That was a potential L, a potential I don't know. But personally, I think I consider that a win, and I think she's considering it a win too. So that's really, really, really cool. Now, another win is that I was contacted by someone about adding another episode to the relationship series. And we're going to talk about the relationship that we have with our past. Yep, we're going to go there today. And so co-hosting with me this episode is Chrisnatha Derosier. She's an author, motivational speaker, and certified life coach. She is the founder of the I Am a Masterpiece movement. She's funky, soft, and just plain fabulous. She has captivated audiences at both Florida Gulf Coast and Nova University. Named the Urban League of Broward County's success story, Chrisnatha is making her mark in her community as well as in the world at large. She has been seen on Lee Pitts Live, Tropic TV, and also featured in Bronze Magazine, Today's Innovative Woman Magazine, and on radio shows such as Naked Truth, Love-Hate Relationship Show, Soul Topics, Love 101, MIALive.net, Positive Teen Talk, and Joyful Living for Women. Whew! In 2016, Chrisnatha was nominated as one of the many women leaders who are making an impact in the lives of women across this country by the United States of Women, hosted by the United States of America White House. Chrisnatha once struggled with her self-image and low self-esteem. Since then, she sees herself through the eyes of the King and helps other women to see themselves through God's eyes. She overcame that struggle and vowed to always inspire and uplift other women to love themselves. This is where her organization was birthed, I Am a Masterpiece is a movement designed to help other women discover the masterpiece within. We want women everywhere to love themselves and accept who God created them to be. She assists women to go from confusion to clarity by helping them get to the core of who they are and to live every day operating in their purpose. She does this through her group and one-on-one life coaching program. So everyone, welcome to the show, Miss Chrisnatha Derosier. This episode is brought to you by the I Am a Five-Star Woman Retreat. Join us as women convene south of tropical Miami, Florida on October 6, 2018. In this one-day retreat from our surrounding worlds, ladies will congregate to enjoy all things Jamila Wellness, from uniting the women in the family with the Forever Brunch, to living our star lives, to building our resilience with Naturally Cinnamon. The attendees of these retreats will leave with tools to immediately apply to their lives. The menu, each section, and every activity have been delicately created to increase every aspect of wellness in women: mental wellness, emotional wellness, physical wellness, financial wellness, and yes, spiritual wellness too. Not only will you walk away with having developed each point of your star, you will be a five-star woman. Register now at www.starshineconference.com and use promo code podcast to receive 10% off your ticket. Can't make it and want a live stream? There's an option for you too. www.starshineconference.com.
All right, everybody. Thank you again for returning to another episode. And I am going to, I can't even contain the excitement that I have Ms. Chrisnatha Derosier on the line with me, and we're going to discuss a really cool topic. But before we get into that, you all know wins, L's, and I don't knows. We got to catch up on those. We haven't forgotten. So I'll go ahead and share mine, and then we're going to hear from Chris. Do you mind if I call you Chris?
No problem.
Okay, we're going to hear from Miss Chris. My wins recently is that I did, after this busy summer, get a vacation where I was able to get away and get in tune with some of my cousins that I'm really close with, and I haven't really had a chance to really connect with them the way I wanted to in a little over a year. So I was able to do that, and that was, really refreshing. I was able to also catch up with a couple of friends that live out of town, out of state. I was also able to, spend a good time with my parents, and that's my win, my recent win. My recent L was a lesson. I forgot something, and I did end up posting it on Instagram a while ago, and I'll paraphrase it. If you want to see it, go to my Instagram. But I did post that, I was able to, a lot of times we think we want God to just basically tell us what to do. I see this meme all the time. If God could just send me a text and say, hey, do this, then things will be a little easier. Well, there was a particular path in life that I needed to walk, and God made that clear to me. But what I forgot in the meantime of walking this path was that for some reason I thought that it would be easy. It would be an easy path. It would be, there would be no miscommunications or misunderstandings, or there would be no hurdles. It would just be a nice little easy breezy stroll in the grass. Yeah, no. So when issues and difficulties and hard times came up, I would try to defend my position with other people. And see, I forgot. I don't need to defend it. I just need to walk it. That was my directive. Just walk this path and leave the rest to me. And I started trying to handle the rest, and it got overwhelming. And so my lesson was, don't forget to just walk the path. Okay, Cinnamon, just walk the path. So that was my L for the week. It was a very eye-opening L. There was some pain behind that L, but I'm glad I learned it. I am very glad I learned it. And my I don't know for the week is something I'm going to kind of keep under wraps because I'm pending something. I put in for a little something, put in a proposal. I'm waiting to hear back from it, so I don't know how that's going to go. but I'll let you guys know when I know how that turned out. So that's my I don't know. So Miss Chris, what are your wins, L's, and I don't knows?
Okay, well, I loved your wins and your L and your I don't know. For me, a big win is a few weeks ago I relocated to a whole new city. So I'm super excited about that. It's definitely a change. I do not have my family here, so that's a different reality, but I see it as a win because I know that I am being stretched, I am being used by God, and I'm super excited for everything that's to come in this new space, in this new region, in this new city. So I'm excited. So that's my win. My L is a lesson. It's kind of two-part. The first one is trusting God for certain things to manifest in my life. And I expected God to show up a certain way in my life, with certain things that I was waiting on him to do. And he did, but he did it in so many different ways that I didn't expect. And so I had a hard time accepting that my prayer was being answered. And so it's important to be open to not just praying about, okay, God, I want you to hear my prayer and I want you to fulfill this prayer, but also to be open as to how he will do it. It's not always the way that you expect. So be open and don't put God in a box. So that was a big lesson for me. And then the second part of that is always, even if I feel that, okay, I'm in the will of God. God wanted me to move and I moved. I can't just move and just sit here. I have to consistently be open, stay connected and tuned into the Holy Spirit, but there has to be some action taking place. And so it's important that I'm just not literally just sitting and waiting, right? But just being led. So those are my wins and my lessons.
Ooh, all right. That was fun. See, I love wins, L's, and I don't know. It just gives me nice little butterflies. Now, I will share another win is that I thought that we were wrapping up our relationship series. Well, one of my listeners and also one of my purpose partners, Miss Chrisnatha, reached out to me with another relationship that I had not considered. And it is actually something that she's able to speak on. So when she reached out to me, I was completely and totally excited. That's why I sound super juiced up for this situation, this conversation today, because I'm like, this is awesome. As we were talking about our relationships, I wanted to point out and in our series that a lot of times when we think about relationships and when we talk about relationships, the number one topic to even read about is our romantic relationships, the relationships we have intimately with other people and our partners and our spouses and so on. Well, we covered in the series already, we did talk about a romantic relationship, but we also talked about the relationships with ourselves, the relationships we have with our family members, and the relationship we have with our friends. Well, Miss Chris is going to talk to us about our relationship with our past. I know. Let us sit back for this. This is such a good topic. Now, some people have a relationship with their past that yields positive feelings, good memories, happy thoughts. And then there's some people that have relationships with their past that yield, some troubling memories, maybe some trauma or some, other types of emotions. So Ms. Chris is going to talk to us about how we can evaluate the relationship with our past. Like, how can we do that? How can we, Ms. Chris, can you help us out there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Cinnamon, for having me and allowing me to talk about this. Our relationship with our past is actually very important. A lot of times we can feel like it's not important. It's behind us. It's happened already. Let's just move on. And yes, it's important to move forward in life. However, there are some things that take place that have a hold on us emotionally, mentally, and we want to make sure that we are dealing with it the right way, that our relationship with it is healthy. And what do I mean by that? The great memories that we all have, that is a positive experience. That's awesome. Maybe when you went down to Disney World as a child, when you used to go to the local fair or festival, right? Those things are fun. You know, you can sit back with your family members and laugh and say, you remember when, right? And you laugh and you have a good time, and that's great. And it's good to sometimes go back and think about those things and share those memories with the people that are the most important to you. However, there are some experiences and there are some things in our past that weren't as positive. There are some negative things that have taken place as well. It could be traumatic. It could be something that you may have buried literally in the back of your mind, and you can say, that was such a long time ago. We don't need to talk about that. We don't need to revisit that. Let's act like it never happened. And I can say that because I've done that before as well. The tricky thing about acting like certain traumatic experiences never happened is that you can bury it in your memory for a certain amount of time, but it will show up in your life. It may not show up exactly the same way it did in the past, but it will show up in the way that you interact with people, your point of view concerning different things. So you wanna pay attention to that. For instance, I'll give you an example. As a young girl, personally, I was molested as a 7-year-old by my neighbor, right? And so I buried this for a long time. And I was 25 when I built up enough courage to have this conversation with my family and my close friends and write it in a book, actually, and say, listen, this happened. I didn't make this up. Because for a long time I was like, I think I made this up because I haven't thought about this. Did this happen? And what ended up happening in college is that something else happened in college where I started getting triggers. And so that's when the flashbacks came, like the flashbacks were just going through my memory. And I said, like, I saw myself as 7 years old with my little dress, going to the neighbor's house with my mom, me running off to another room and being molested. So it came in pieces. And that's when I started to piece the memories together and said, oh, my goodness. You know, but it was a trigger. It was a young man in college who got aggressive with me and I think grabbed my arm or something. And I immediately got afraid and thought he was going to hurt me, and then flashback to 7 years old. And so I could forget it for a long time, and I just was like, this never happened. It never happened. But it did happen. And so it affected how I interacted with men. I was nervous all of the time. I was scared. I was overly watching out for myself because no one was ever going to hurt me again like that, right? And so I would have moments where I would just break out in tears for no reason. Then I had to go get some counseling because I had to start talking, you know, and work through it. And I say all that to say that that moment in time really began to affect me as an adult. And as much as I wanted to just move on, just act like, you know, just move on with your life. After college, I remember when I had to move back home. Now, I want just to give you some perspective. Moving back home meant I was moving back into my childhood home where the neighbor still lived right across the way. So I just want to give you some perspective, right? And so here I am as an adult moving back home after college and crying. I mean, I was the 7-year-old girl crying my eyes out, kicking and screaming, saying, I'd rather live in a car, right? Wow. And so my family, who's amazing, my family is like the best family you'll ever have, right? So they're thinking, well, do you not like us anymore? Have we done something to you? Like, why would you not want to live with us? Why would you rather be homeless than to live with us? And I said, it's not you. It's the memory. It's not you. I can't live through this memory. And so it was so hard to get them to understand where I was coming from because they tried to be sympathetic, but they couldn't fully get it, right? And I'm like, man, I feel like a crazy person because no one understands what I'm going through. And so this experience from my past, it shaped how I saw men. It shaped how I saw relationships. It shaped how I felt like I need to be super protective because I'm in control. No one's going to hurt me anymore, right? So it was just really, really hard. And so I had to unlearn the idea of, just be quiet, be silent, be real fragile, don't make a fuss, and so I became the extreme. I'm going to speak up for myself. You're not going to walk over me, and da-da-da-da-da. And sometimes it was misplaced. Sometimes it was too extra. It wasn't necessary, but that was my way, right? And so some traumatic experiences, they really do come up later on. They come up in different ways. And so I consider that to be one of my many baggages that I carried, but it was something no one could see. And so I like to call that kind of baggage invisible baggage. Sometimes we see someone and we'll say, I don't want to get connected because they have baggage. And we'll consider things like maybe a divorce baggage. If someone has children and we don't, we might say, oh, that person has baggage. They have children, because it's something you can see. But what about the invisible baggage that we may carry, that just because someone can't see it, we have baggage too? We all do. So I want to encourage people to really tap in and look at what's happening. Practice being more self-aware. I think that's something that we should really, really, really focus on. Practice being more self-aware. When an emotion rises up in you, I want to encourage you all to ask yourself, why am I feeling like that? What does that mean? Because it's not always someone else's fault why you're mad, why you're scared, why you're nervous. Sometimes it's a trigger. But it's easier to say, she made me this upset. He made me this angry. You made me this nervous. But it's like, wait a minute, what's in me that's making me nervous to get this vulnerable with you? So we have to start looking within. So practice being more self-aware. And as you ask yourself those questions, you start to dig. And then you can start to really see, oh, this is the root of this. This is the root of my self-esteem issues, right? I've had weight issues as a child up until my adult years, and I developed an eating disorder as a teenager, and I had to say, where did that come from? I had to go back when I was going through puberty and going through all these different changes in my body as a little kid, and my cousins would say, you're so fat. We can eat this, but Chris, make sure she gets a salad, because she should not be eating what we're eating. She's the fat one. See, it was funny at 7, right? It was funny at 10. But those are those self-limiting beliefs that we start to believe. And then as you get older, you're like, well, I can't eat that piece of cake. I'm going to feel ashamed. They're watching me. Like, I don't want them to think I'm the fat one, right? And then my relationship with food starts to become unhealthy. Now it's like, don't eat this or eat this, and then binge that. So many things go so far into our past. So it's important to look back, not because we're trying to go back there, but we have to unlearn these self-limiting beliefs that we truly have taken on.
I love what you said about the baggage that's visible but also invisible. Like you said, we know what and I'm picturing mentally a suitcase. I'm walking around with the suitcase. You can see that I'm walking around with the suitcase. You can see I'm rolling it around. It's on my shoulder. However I'm carrying it, you can see that I'm carrying it, but you don't know what's inside. Yes. You've got no idea what's inside. That's what's not visible to you. Like, we may think that someone, you gave an example with children, okay, that's visible baggage. But what you don't know is the invisible baggage that they're walking around with, that may have happened to that person even before the children ever were born, before the children were ever conceived, that now the children may be a reminder of that thing that happened in their past. And it's just our relationships with our past can always show up they will manifest in some sort of way, like you said, the triggers that come up. So being self-aware is most definitely a key. I would definitely agree with you there. And for somebody who's not necessarily sure of what may be inside that suitcase, inside that baggage, or what their triggers may be, counseling that you said you received is a wonderful, phenomenal way to begin to get in touch with those things. Absolutely. I mean, think about you could think about a therapist as your baggage inspector. You know, sometimes when we fly, TSA has to look into luggage, you know, spot check, random check inside of our luggage, not just the bags we carry with us, but the checked bags as well, the ones that we can't see that they're looking. We can think of a therapist as somebody who's taking a look into our bags and maybe saying, yeah, you probably shouldn't walk around with this. This is harmful. You know, yeah, I'm not sure how many times people who are listening to this fly, but I fly kind of often, and I because I fly often enough, I kind of know what not to put in my bag, even my purse.
Right.
I kind of know what not to have in there. But someone who's not familiar with flying, I'll see them in line with me, and they'll have to have something thrown away, or they're not allowed to keep it. Think of a therapist as TSA. They're going into your bag and saying, this right here, you shouldn't keep this. You can't walk around with this.
So
you can't move forward. I can't let you move forward, or you're hindering your forward movement if you continue to walk around with this in this bag. So let's take that out.
And how frustrating is it when TSA asks you to get rid of something? You're looking like, what?
Something that you want to keep. Something that you desperately want to keep. If it's a bottle of water and, you know, you're walking around with a bottle of water and they say you can't enter with this bottle of water, you're like, oh, man, now I got to pay $3 for a bottle of water when I get inside this airport. However, if it's, you know, I watched somebody have a bottle of lotion thrown away. And to some people, a bottle of lotion is not a big deal. Well, I don't know how much she spent on that bottle of lotion or what brand that bottle of lotion is, but I found out later because I heard her talking on the phone with someone else that she mixed a certain mixture of essential oils in with the lotion that really helped her skin for eczema. So losing that bottle of lotion for her was tragic.
Right.
Tragic. She wanted to hold on to that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Chrisnatha, what if you have to get rid of something you want so dearly to hold on to?
It's like one of the hardest things to do. It's so hard.
It is.
And if it's something you've had a long time, oh my goodness, that's hard.
It is difficult. It's very difficult. Yeah, and I love the relationship with our past, and everybody's relationship. The beautiful thing about it is you can't act like your past is no longer there.
Yeah.
So you have to try to figure out, what's my relationship with it? What is my relationship with that experience? Your experience with what was told to you as a child about your weight and how that manifested in your relationship with food, even in the present.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
There's things that come up with our relationship, you know, traumas and experiences we have in our past. Like you said, what happened to you at 7. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
That then manifested itself in the way that you related with the opposite gender, you know, later on in life as an adult. There are things that show up as an adult. It's just the manifestation of the incident or incidents that have happened in the past. So we do owe it to ourselves to pay attention to, you know, become more self-aware and know what our relationship with our past is. I want everyone to understand, Chrisnatha and I are not saying that you need to have a positive relationship with a traumatic event. We're not saying that. What we're saying is knowing what your relationship, what that triggers and brings up for you is how you relate to it. Knowing what that relationship is with that particular event and becoming more aware of that can then help you as you start to move forward. So I just wanted to make that clear to everybody that's listening.
Yes.
You know, no one's going out and saying, oh, yeah, that thing happened to you. Yeah, but you should look at it positively. That's not what we're saying.
No, a bad experience is a bad experience. And sometimes there's still hurt attached to it. Definitely, you know, but it's important to know that the past is a part of our journey, but it's not our entire story. And sometimes, you know, things take a while. It's a process to move forward with certain things, certain experiences and circumstances. However, there has to be some forgiveness. There has to be some I'm moving forward. I'm choosing to let go because I want my peace of mind, because some things can really hold you hostage, and you have to make the decision. Don't get me wrong. A lot of times we are justified in our anger. We are justified in our unforgiveness, but it doesn't make it okay, And so at some point, we're just saying, you're not right. You were wrong for what you did to me, right? But I want to move on. I want my load to be lighter. So I'm going to move on, And so it's a decision for you to say, okay, this is pretty heavy. Because I know personally for me, when I had to move back home kicking and literally kicking and screaming, my experience at home was horrible. Not because of my family's amazing. They overcompensated for trying to make me comfortable. And I'm like, guys, you're amazing already. This is something I'm realizing I have to work through in my own mind, in my own heart. I got a lot of work to do on the inside with this. And so if you could just try to be patient with me, let me try to kind of just work through this. And therapy, prayer, people who would just let me talk about my feelings. Thank God for my safe place, which are, my family and my close girlfriends, and also just let me kind of feel, whatever I was feeling at that time. And my handy-dandy journal, prayer definitely played a part as well. So it took a time, but I got to tell you, when God gave me the word to move out of that house and neighborhood, I was so happy that I was moving, sad that I was leaving my family, but so happy to be out of that neighborhood for me, because for me, pre-7 years old, that neighborhood was nothing but joy, happiness, riding on my bike outside, like just the most happy place I could live. Post 7 years old, it was hell. So for me, when I came home, it wasn't, the inside of the house was, but just pulling up, So I had to work through those things, and my family couldn't understand. So it was my journey to work through.
All right. Wow. That is, I'm very happy to hear that. One thing, the name of this podcast is the Resilience Rising Podcast, because what I focus on, with my clients is building their resilience. And resilience is quite literally the ability to bounce back. Like that's
right,
the
right.
most basic way to explain to anyone what it is, the ability to bounce back. Some are born into environments that facilitate resilience and resilient living. Some people have to create those environments, and they have to create the tools and learn the tools that will help facilitate in resilience. Because one thing I tell my clients, life is not going to stop happening as long as we're living. It's not going to stop happening. Things are going to happen. Expected, unexpected, desired, undesirable things. Things are going to come up. We can't stop them, but we can better handle them by raising our resilience. And you've given us so many keys and so many tools today on this call to help us not just, with raising our resilience. And one of those is developing, I think what you wanted to call it was a healthy relationship with our past. Be it good memories, bad memories, whatever they are. Like you said, the bad memories are the bad memories. That's what they are. But developing a healthy relationship where you don't allow it to tear you down. Yeah, that's a bad memory. I've got bad memories too. I do. That's one of the reasons we do the wins, L's, and I'll knows. So I can try to help people change the narrative of experiences. This is an experience. What was my lesson from that? What did I learn from that? Because if I can remember it as a lesson, that kind of decreases the negative effect of that memory. I'm like, yeah, that happened, but you know what I learned from that? This is what I learned from that. Sometimes there's a lesson that's easily identifiable. Sometimes there's not. And sometimes the lesson may be for the other person and not for you. I understand, and I do recognize that. That's why when you explained what you said when you were 7, I was like, I'm really sorry to hear that, because there was not a lesson in that for you. Not at 7. Not at 7. I'm sorry. No. I pray and hope that that gentleman received whatever lesson he was supposed to get from that. I think, I do hope that. I hope that, and I hope that any other people who may try to, sexually assault anyone of any age may learn a lesson from someone else. That maybe this is not such a good idea, and they don't do it. But we do want to raise our resilience, and our relationship with our past is such a hefty, heavy topic that I almost leaped. I'm glad I pulled the phone away from my mouth when you said counseling, because I'm like, yes. I was like, yes. Counseling does help in becoming self-aware of your triggers, knowing not just the visible baggage, but what our invisible baggage is, and that it is easier to blame someone else at times. You said so many good things. Thank you so much for sharing this with our listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being willing to do this. Now, I do want everyone to know how they can contact you. You mentioned that you moved, but I know that you are still available in different areas.
I am.
So please let everyone know how they can find you.
Sure. My website is www.imamasterpiece.com, www.imamasterpiece.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, Chrisnatha Derosier, Instagram at Chrisnatha, Twitter at Chrisnatha. So I am on all social media platforms, and LinkedIn, I'm Chrisnatha Derosier. So that's how you'll be able to find me online.
Definitely, and I will definitely have the links to how you guys can get in touch with her in the show notes. So whatever platform you're listening on, just go to the show notes and you'll be able to see, just click on exactly where to find her. So thank you again so much. You guys will be hearing more from her. This is for sure.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It's time for the Spirit Support segment, when we take a moment to feed our spirit. Brought to you by Jamila Wellness, where women go to be well and live beautifully. Today's Spirit Support is brought to us by the Jamila Wellness spiritual wellness blogger, Betty Key, entitled Growing in Our Relationship with God. Relationship shows how significant we consider a connection with someone else. We didn't establish our connection to God, but we can do something to nurture and grow it. First things first, know the foundation. The foundation of our relationship with God is Jesus Christ. When we build from that starting point by confessing Him as our Lord and Savior and doing what He teaches, the relationship begins strong. Trying to build a relationship with God in any other way is dangerous and headed for failure. There are song lyrics that say, "Our hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. All other ground is sinking sand." Now that we have a secure foundation for our relationship, what do we need to hold it together? Let's look at building a house. We have wood, brick, concrete, stones that need to be held together. So it is in our relationship with the Father. Love is what holds our connection to the Father, just like the glue, screws, nails, and mortar that hold the house together. God poured out His love through the blood of His Son, and we pour our life love back to Him by putting Him first. And like building materials, we must be secured to the foundation. Find the scripture that anchors you to the foundation of Jesus Christ and vigorously hammer it into your spirit. John 3:16 is a good place to start. Our relationship needs to be maintained. That happens in our faithfulness to God. It's like the maintenance part of owning a house. Some think of maintenance as taking care of a crisis once it occurs. And to a certain extent, that is true. You can't let a leak continue. But true maintenance is checking joints and faucets on a regular basis before the fact, so that at the first sign of disruption or disconnection, you handle it then. Tighten the screw, clean out the pipes, put an extra nail in. You do that to maintain, to keep the house successfully faithful to its purpose. So with our relationship, We're faithful to God by checking in with Him daily through prayer, praise, and meditating on His Word. And when we see the small crack or break in the relationship, revisit the foundation. Line up our thoughts and actions with His commands. Glue ourselves to His love, that we might be filled with all the fullness of God in a God-centered relationship that is lived out loud. Thanks for tuning in to Resilience Rising with Naturally Cinnamon. Life has a way of tossing unexpected trials and circumstances our way. We can't stop them, but we can better handle them by raising our resilience. Remember, you can find us at ResilienceRisingPodcast.com, on Instagram at Resilience Rising Podcast, and you can also send in a question or topic for this podcast by emailing us at ResilienceRisingPodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to like this podcast, love it, share it, rate it, and comment, but most important, make sure that you've subscribed and that you're following. I'm Naturally Cinnamon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Creative Director Jeremy Key for J Key Collective. Music by AJ Miles.